Hello. My name's Tony. I'm just gonna wait for the presenter to come early. We're like about 10 minutes early or so, but no worries. Can't wait for this cast chat on first gen students. We're gonna wait for the presenter so I can make them co-hosts. A little about myself, a small introduction for we wait until they come. I'm one of the cast peer mentors, interns for the summer program or CAS 101. I'll be working tomorrow in person. I've worked for CAS the last 3 years as a intern, also a CPL, CAS peer leader, and also a CAS supervisor for the CAS 101 program last year. So it was really nice seeing everyone and hopefully meet more in person and get to know each other soon. But we're just gonna wait for the presenter soon. So just relax till then. Hello, Allison. I'll give you permission to be co-host and share your screen.
Okay,
Do
thank
you,
you.
you have any other presenters who need that?
No, it's just going to be me today.
Oh, sweet, sweet. Okay. I just gave you access, so let me know if there's anything else you need.
Okay. My own little mini layout. Looks like we got a couple people joining us. We'll get started right at 3. So if you feel the need to stand up, sit down, get water, turn off your camera, look at the faraway tree, whatever the things are we're supposed to do to keep our brains from melting on computers, feel free to do that. All right. Hello, it's right about 3 o'clock and just saw a few more folks hop on. So I'm gonna get started. Welcome. I really appreciate y'all being here. I am a huge CASP fan. So the Chancellor's Associate Scholars Program was actually my first job at UC San Diego. And any chance I get to partner and do things with Belinda and Ria and all the wonderful staff at CASP, I jump up and say yes. So congratulations on being accepted to, and welcome to UC San Diego and joining the whole CASP. I want to say family, but that's such like a weird, like overused term. Like the support, the community, the CASP community. I like that better. So hopefully you are here to hear about Triton First and First Gen programs and initiatives at UC San Diego, because that's what I'm going to talk about. And so I always like to introduce myself before I start sharing a PowerPoint. But if you're comfortable and you want to put questions in the chat, I will try to multitask and answer those, but I'll definitely leave some Q&A time at the end. If you want to just send chat stuff just to me, that's fine. But I do find that most questions, if you've got it, somebody else has it too. But I'll try to answer them for everyone. So let me start off by saying that I'm Allison Hare. I'll introduce myself. I am the Assistant Director of Student Success Programs, which sounds very broad, but my job is Program Manager for our First Gen programs. And so a little bit narrower. And that being said, there are many First Gen programs. We have two that are very like First Gen focused. And that is Triton First Initiative, which is what I'm going to talk a lot about today. We partner with lots of other First Gen programs on campus. And then we also have something called First Gen Success Coaching, which is kind of like the mentorship and a lot of the people resources you get through CASP for students who aren't in a program like CASP. We work with a lot of First Gen students who don't get like the cool stuff y'all get. So I'm going to talk more about Triton First. It's for everybody, but definitely if you have friends who are First Gen and aren't in CASP and are jealous, you can send them our way and I'll give you contact information later. So let me, all right, can everybody see my slides? You can do like a thumbs up or a very much appreciated. Let me know if you have any trouble hearing me. I've been having some technical difficulties today, as one does, and my headset stopped working. So I'm going rogue and just using the computer. So Triton First is the name of the initiative. It is kind of funny because you will hear people say Triton's First, which kind of makes more sense, but we didn't name it. It was given to us by the UC Office of the President. So that's what it is. And we do have an Instagram page and Facebook and all of that using the Triton First hashtag. So this is about supporting all First Gen students at UC San Diego, including graduate students. And if you do, I can put stuff in the chat too when I get some website links later on that I'll make sure to get you all, and I can provide the slides as well. So Triton First, we invite faculty, staff, alumni, students, you know, anyone who is part of the UC San Diego community who identifies as First Gen to participate. I actually identify as a First Gen supporter. So I do have both of my parents did go to four-year universities, but I got involved in education early in my career and really quickly found out that the population I like working with the most happens to be First Gen, and they keep letting me work with them. So that's why I am here. So this picture was pre-COVID. This was our 2019 Triton First Welcome Social, and we are going to have one this year, and I've got a save the date at the end for you for that. So this usually happens the Friday of Welcome Week, and it is big and fun and music and giveaways. And in the old days of very big meal because food is like our love language as a group. But what this is one of many quarterly events where we try to build community between faculty, staff, students, and grow their networks, specifically of folks who identify as first gen. And it's fun. So let's define first gen. First of all, I want to say this is the UC definition of first gen. So when you filled out your application, it should have said neither parent having a 4-year degree. So this means if you have two parents who started college but didn't finish, you're first gen. If your parents got associate's degrees, first gen, right? So first gen college students, we know generally experience unique challenges, but also have really cool strengths. And there are cool opportunities also as they navigate college. What we're careful with is we don't want to paint with like a broad brush, right? The biggest thing I can say about first gen students is they come from every walk of life and they're unique and they bring different experiences and different lenses, and it makes the university a better place. And so we try to bring all of that to our first gen programming. Now, first gen for UCs, right? So this is stuff for some of the formal programs. There are folks whose parents graduated from universities outside of the United States who want to know, am I considered first gen? I will say for Triton First and the programming, everyone is welcome. If you identify as first gen, you are welcome. Now, if you're applying to like the McNair Honor Scholars or some of these like federally defined programs, you need to follow their definition, and I can show you where to find those. And again, if any questions pop up as we're going, please put them in the chat. I might not answer them right away, but at least like you can write them down while you're thinking about them, and then I can answer them at the end. So Triton First was started in 2017, which to me feels very recent, but with COVID, you know, like the last 2 years also just kind of disappeared in my brain. And so there was a huge need seen for a culture shift at UC San Diego. So about 2016, a first gen director was hired and really brought like just so much joy to the first gen community. I had students who said, you know, it used to be something, I didn't even know I was first gen. I didn't know that was like a title. Like people talk about that sometimes as their immigration story as being like, well, I'm a first generation American, but not always a first generation student. And others would share, you know, sometimes if they did share it, it was like almost like, oh, should I be saying this? Now it is, you know, something to brag about. We have cool events, we have good food, and we talk about how awesome first gen students and staff and faculty are. And so the Triton First initiative was kind of born out of that. We started really doing some formal things. We have a first gen faculty directory, so you can go look up in your major, hey, are any of the faculty who, you know, I'm taking classes from first gen. We've had a number of students who get research positions by simply reaching out to faculty who are in that directory. And so they opt into that directory knowing, like, they're like, come reach out to me, right? There's also some mentoring opportunities. So we have a first gen student alliance, and the medical school has a first gen student program where they actually do mentoring with first gen doctors. And we're working on getting those med students to potentially be some mentors to our first gen undergrads. So there's a lot going on. It was building to this like really beautiful place because it was very program oriented. And then 2020 came and everything went to Zoom. And the first year, everybody was like, yay, we can see other people, we miss people. And this last year, Zoom became a very not exciting place for a lot. Like y'all have like cameras off, you've been there, done that, you're schooling, you get it, I get it. So we are on a mission to bring programming back. If we have to do it outside, we will do it outside. Like if we have to wrap up food and put it into go bags and tell you not to eat it in front of us, we're gonna bring it back because it was just a joyful thing to gather at these Triton First events. And we actually are getting our first full-time Triton First staff member this summer. So this person is just going to be in charge of the Triton First events. So like, you're coming at the right time. So how do we support Triton first gen students? Like I mentioned, I'll show you some pictures because I'm a big like pictures are worth 1,000 words kind of person. But we do quarterly events that are open to the entire campus, and they are fairly like consistent year after year, like what happens each quarter. So I can kind of show you a little preview of that mixed in with more like exciting and different things that go on. I also work with the first generation success coaching that works specifically on goal setting. So whether your goal is to figure out what your major is, to how to use your major, or you know exactly what you want to do and like how do you get there faster, first gen success coaching works with students on kind of building those action plans wherever they're at. This is something I know you all, especially like coming in with CASP, and if you're doing summer bridge, you're going to get a ton of mentorship. So maybe this is something later on where you want to come back and say, you know, I just like, I want to talk to somebody new, I want to get another perspective. First gen success coaching could potentially be like a drop-in service you use in the future. So right before COVID, also before the pandemic, we went home, we were able to partner with some students and start the first UC-wide student first gen organization. So our first gen student alliance, FGSA, is active and we'll be having general body meetings and organizing on campus. So it's student run, student org, but they do a lot of great stuff with partnering with professionals. So they'll bring in, you know, that might be a STEM night, it might be a humanities night, bringing in first gen alumni and folks who are out there talking about like how you can translate your college experience into actually getting a job, or maybe it's, you know, time management. They try to really talk to students and figure out needs and really connect with what students want to do. They also host an honor society. So we're the first UC to have a first gen honor society. It's called Tri Alpha or Alpha Alpha Alpha, which sounds almost like a skit from Saturday Night Live, but I'll give you the link there too. Because of a lot of the work we've done since 2016, we are considered a first gen advisory campus for all campuses in the nation. So there's almost like, there's a lot, right? And so we're very proud of this, but it only works if you know about the resources and they're accessible to you. So hopefully that's what we're going to talk about a little bit today. So UC San Diego as a campus celebrates and supports first gen students through a number of formal programs. So y'all know Oasis and Summer Bridge. The TRIO programs are there. Just shout out to CASP. I do want to talk a little bit about the undergraduate research hub, which I will get into. So although the undergraduate research hub does support all students, there are specific programs within it that are for first gen students. So get familiar with URH. They will pay you to do research. If you've never had experience, they will pay you to do summer research. If you've had experience, there's a lot of cool stuff going on there, and they are within our student retention and success unit that CASP and Triton First is also in. Okay, specialized programs by major. The physical sciences department, right? So this is physics, chem, math. I think that's it. Yeah, we'll go with that. I might be missing one. They actually have started first gen programming over there. I believe that biology might have a small like first gen programming. So if whatever your major is, go on that website, look at their student affairs events and see if they may also, you know, be offering things that I'm not even aware of because it's on a smaller like major scale. So just a couple pictures. So first gen, welcome social, like I said, food, music, giveaways. We do some very intentional networking with grad students, undergrads, staff, and faculty. So before classes even start, You can meet other first gen folks at different levels. My second year students like always come to this because they remember how much fun it was their first year and they got food. So good chance to meet people. Different years, it's been different places, but this year it's actually going to be on the Sun God lawn, which is closest to Muir. And if you haven't been there before, there's a big statue that looks like a bird, but it's called Sun God. And it's a beautiful rolling green lawn. And we're going to have a DJ and food and hopefully keep up the good work. So the next thing that happens is every year, November 8th, regardless of what day of the week it is National First Gen Day. And it coincides with some landmark education legislation that the Higher Education Act. So we celebrate it that whole week. So basically the first or second week in November, there tends to be a lot of activity. This was the picture was back in 2017. That was our first ever First Gen Day. It was actually nationally recognized that year for the first time ever. So when I say we were changing the culture of First Gen identities and how it's celebrated at UCSD, this is something that's a national like wave, I guess, trend that places are slowly but surely like recognizing the awesomeness of First Gen students. So on National First Gen Day, we've had events such as this one up here with faculty panels. So we've had, engineering faculty, some of our CAPS providers, the counseling and psychological services, people who are on faculty at the med school, physics, art, like you name it, folks there. And all of these talks were like a little bit different. One was called Failing Forward, right? Like the power of failing and like overcoming that fear of failing that we all have, but especially as first gen students, there's this very like high stakes feeling sometimes with especially UCSD and that beginning and knowing that small failures are actually how we learn and can support each other and bounce back. And there were some amazing and inspirational stories that came out of that day. And Dr. Rodriguez, who's talking in that left-hand picture, actually is a faculty member in the School of Medicine and Psychiatry. And one of my students went up to her afterwards and told her how inspired she was and ended up doing research with her for 3 years. And she wrote her like letters of recommendation to med school. And this was in a huge lecture hall that was completely packed, right? So these are not small events. And this is to say, like we want to put this out there as being first gen is not a deficit, it is a strength. And we want to celebrate that as much as we can. So we do a lot of these community events. You'll see, again, I just like pictures because it reminds me of back when we were all together. But folks talking, we do mentorship, partnerships with some of the STEM folks and get students into lab situations, even if it's only for one day, with one of our faculty who is a first gen faculty member, and he will refer students to labs because he knows how important it is to get involved from day one. All right, so here's some of the opportunities that I mentioned before, and I will send this over with the links, but you can also Google it. So the Tri Alpha Honor Society is a first gen honor society that you get even the extra cord at graduation, put it on your resume, and you can join as an undergrad or an alumni. And we have gotten funding the last few years so that we actually pay for any fees that students have. You do need to meet their GPA requirement because it's an honor society. So that's kind of a fun thing to check out for like the end of your UCSD career, the graduating part. Now let's talk early on, TRELS, TRELS. Write it down if you haven't already. This is our research for people who've never done research before scholarship. You heard me right, scholarship. So you can get $1,000 a quarter and you can do it up to 3 quarters in a row. The GPA requirement is it's like pretty lenient. I think it's 2.25. So but you can also do it your first quarter at UC San Diego. You don't have to be at any certain units. The only requirement is that you're willing to go ask a faculty member if they will advise you for it. You don't have to have a topic. You don't have to know anything. And the idea is we want all students to get started with research fast. Research does not have to mean white coat and goggles in a lab. It can be, a photography like exhibit of some sort of social science study, right? It can be artwork. It can be, I think there was a fashion show one year that it's a very broad term. Any major can get trials. Any year can get trials from freshman to senior, right? So look it up early, find a faculty member who maybe you might feel comfortable just kind of chatting with about it. There is a whole program that supports you through this. So it helps you build your trials like application, and it is available every single quarter. You usually apply, I think it's like weeks 8 or 9 for the following quarter. So in fall, they'll say, hey, look, be on the lookout. The trial scholarship is open like week 6. Please apply by, I'm just gonna say week 8. So I'm saying it early. I think it's actually week 9, but, and then you would start in winter quarter. And so if you get that, you get the $1,000, you get paid to do research. So this is time you don't have to be working, that you can spend your extracurricular time getting prepared for grad school or career readiness. Now the McNair Scholars Program is a little bit more formal. So you do need 90 units. You need to have upper division standing. If any of you are transfer students, you can dive into McNair pretty quickly. So I've had a number of transfer students who started they did McNair their 4th year because the application is open pretty early in fall. It's like the first 2 weeks of fall every year. It's a nationally recognized program for students who are interested in pursuing a PhD. For both, now for TRELS, there is a preference given to first-gen students and populations that are underrepresented in education. Now McNair, because it's a federally funded program, has more restrictions. I think you have to be first gen. So if y'all are here, hopefully, yay, that's y'all. It is a generous scholarship, help applying to grad school, help taking the GRE, connecting folks with really like the ability to travel to conferences and do all of those things. And it's awesome. So our McNair scholars have just done some really cool social science and STEM like work on campus where they present every summer. And I've gotten to go see a lot of those and see the impact that they've made. And in fact, I have one student who is doing his whole McNair scholar research on first gen STEM education in secondary schools, and he's a bio major. So, you can really adapt it to what you're interested in and your major. We know that while y'all are first gen, you did not get here alone. And so we want to make sure we include and shout out the support systems, family members, people you care about and love, and have spaces for them to also be involved. So we do something called First Gen Family Table Talks, where we have students who are active in our program, their family members will sometimes host them, right? So like family members, not staff even, talking to other family members about their experience. So especially if it's your first year, this can be really powerful. We've had alumni come with their parents and talk about the experience they both had, right? Like going through. We do them in both Spanish and English, and I believe we're working on adding families that speak other languages as well. So try to make that as inclusive as possible. Triton's Connect is through our alumni and career centers. So this is a more formal program where you can go online and you can sign up and you can get a virtual mentor through Triton's Connect, and you can actually like do a drop down as first gen. And so if you're looking for first gen mentorship, sometimes it's just nice to be able to check that box and be like, okay, you were first in your family to graduate, and then you went and got a job in XYZ field. Like what, like that breaks my brain. What was that even like? And you can connect with folks who are very recent grads, as well as people who are established. Let me keep an eye on the time. The Career Center is just an awesome place on campus. Right now, everything's fairly virtual, but they have done a lot of work to have first gen events for first gen engineers and first gen business, first gen like law kind of events. And so we do encourage y'all to check it out. And if you know any alumni for first gen, they can go through the Alumni and Career Center to also connect with students like you and others. All right, so what to look out for. So these are kind of our standard events. So the Triton First Fall Welcome Social that I showed you in the National First Gen, a week events, those happen every single year, Welcome Week, and that November 8th week. We usually do some fun events also. So again, with coming back to campus, we're hoping to get back on that, doing more events. This was kind of the pandemic scaled back side of things. Winter is our career readiness conference. So this is a first gen career readiness conference where we bring in alumni, we go through resumes, we do interview readiness, and it potentially could be hybrid online, but the year we did it in person was really fun. So again, if we can have community and come together, we prefer that. And then in spring, there's usually some sort of TED Talk type of thing where we have faculty talk about their experiences. But the real thing is our first gen graduation celebrations, which we've had to do virtually now for a few years, but we've had some fun with that. We've got a first gen website that was so popular. They've actually kind of created something very similar for all of campus. So you can click on each graduate and it tells their full story, and it tells like what their support system was and celebrates their different identities. And so we've been really excited to like continue that on. This past year was the first year we had first gen graduation stoles, which might not seem like a lot now, but when the closer you get to graduation, UC San Diego students like love their stoles. They like layer them. They're like, I got my college, my major, my student orgs, my McNair, and celebrating that first gen identity. So put it on your calendar, Friday, September 23rd, 5 p.m. Sungled Lawn. This is going to be our first big event, the first gen welcome social. You do not need to RSVP. You can just swing by. But we usually have some fun, giveaways and raffles, and we've even done first gen socks, which I thought I wasn't in charge of that, but they were very popular. So we might bring the first gen socks back. Who knows? Definitely lots of pens and school supplies and gift cards and first gen student shirts and all the swag fun stuff. All right, I'm gonna stop. I wanted to leave about 15 minutes for questions, Q&A time. And I will encourage you to raise your virtual hand. I would love to hear voices, but also welcome anything in the chat. I feel like I need music playing in the background. Okay, so while I'm waiting for potential questions, I am going to jump over to our first gen website so I can show you. Let's see. Start this fresh. All right, can you still see on the screen I can see Erica's face. So Erica's nodding. You can still see, it says Triton first, and it's like a picture of the website. Nice. Thank you, Erica. I feel like every Zoom group needs like a volunteer to be like the camera on, like, yes, we're still here. So
I come from an older generation, so it's more of a communication thing for me.
I also understand, like, hey, sometimes turning your camera off is self-care, right? Like if you've been on all day and it is just, you're not feeling it, there is no judgment coming from me. But I will say, as a presenter, having a face to like smile and nod, I'm like, oh yay, like someone's there. Yeah, and I've got a question I want to go over. So on this website that I just put in the, I'm actually sorry, just about to put in the chat. So if you do want to go check it out before I send the PowerPoints out, you can do that. It's going to talk a little bit about like some of the theory and some of the kind of, the stuff that, how we support first-gen students and what specific support maybe first-gen students need that that continuing gen students like don't, and there's always the vice versa. So one thing we talk about a lot with all students, but specifically first-gen students, is the hidden curriculum. So raise your hand if you've heard about this term before, the hidden curriculum. Okay, so this is the stuff that unfortunately, traditionally, a lot of colleges and faculty members were pretty guilty of, which was assuming everybody knew what they were supposed to be doing without telling them, right? And so the syllabus, which I used to teach K through 12. So our syllabus was more of like a daily like checklist, or like, these are like the 3 books we're gonna read this semester. The syllabus in your classes are a roadmap to success. Professors have to submit them to their departments, and it's gonna have like what's on the test, what's expected of you, how many absences you can have, and that actually exists in college. The absence thing is real for a few classes. How to study for tests, resources, and they will not necessarily, very small percentage of faculty members will tell you that you need to go read the syllabus. It's just the understanding is there that like, oh, you're in my class, you got this Canvas website, right? And there's a syllabus in it. You should know that. And students will be like, why didn't someone tell us this? So it's those things that are assumed that we call the hidden curriculum. Things that like sound weird, office hours. So office hours, like when I was in high school, I didn't go to office hours because I didn't get in trouble, right? Like, and so that's a common thing we'll hear, is like hearing advising or counseling was a really negative experience, sometimes in community college or high school. That is very different. So you need to see your college advisor either virtually or in person to get the best roadmap for your GEs and your major. And meeting with them is a good experience, especially if you go early in your gang health planning, versus I thought I was going to graduate, but I apparently forgot to take like a bunch of classes because I didn't know where to check. So they are a good guidepost to expose that hidden curriculum. And they're very friendly. However, they sometimes have rules, right? Or they'll say, oh, we're not meeting in person this week. We're only doing the virtual advising center. And that can be like a little bit put off, but it's because just of capacity. Never take it personally. They genuinely want to meet with you. They're just trying to like figure out the best times and ways to do it. And sometimes the first 2 weeks is all about job ads. So they'll only do drop-in appointments, and they won't allow you to book an appointment. So just be like, give them some grace, be definitely don't try once and give up. Some other things that we talk about a lot with the hidden curriculum are, so like office hours is where your faculty member on the syllabus will say in tiny, like 8-point font in the corner, my office hours are like Wednesday 3 to 4 in this office or Zoom room. And students will say, well, I have another class Wednesdays from 3 to 4. I guess I can never go ask questions. A lot of faculty are getting better about this because the departments are saying, hey, this is actually a best practice. What they mean is I'm always going to be just sitting there waiting Wednesdays from 3 to 4 or by appointment, meaning like you can reach out to me by email or talk to me after class about times that you can come that fit your schedule. And office hours do not have to be, well, you know, I have a question about the lecture. You're like, I don't know what to lecture. I don't even know what I have a question about. You can just go to office hours, say hi to your professor, say, I'm a new student here. And like, give me, what was your college experience like? Oh, you're a professor in my major. I'm going to go introduce myself during office hours and say, you know, I heard about this Trells thing. It's for like people who don't do research, and all the faculty members they love Trells. So they'll say, absolutely, I know all about it, right? Like, let's talk about and maybe you're like, I don't even want to look at research till my second year, but how do I even figure out like where to start? Office hours are great for that. Okay, another thing office hours are great for, you know, not the day before the midterm, but the week before the midterm or 2 weeks before the midterm, going in and saying, this is what I'm planning on studying. Am I missing anything, right? Can I get help with this concept? Can I get help with this? Students who go to office hours get super secret, hey, this is going to be on the test kind of information, because professors usually really like want students to come. They just don't tell them to come. Is that confusing yet? Right? So you don't know this, but professors are complaining about students not coming to office hours when y'all aren't around. And students are like, well, I don't want to bother them. So that's something I definitely want to like put out there, is like put yourself out there. First gen students, I know a lot of times there's just some like expectations of going home, and especially driving, like if you don't live in the San Diego area, like going home to support and like help with family and support systems in ways maybe you were able to before, but the quarter system is fast. And pretty much after week 1, expect to start having tests or papers due, and it is a full-time job. So 12 units is considered full-time, but you're going to eventually be needing to take at least 16 units a quarter in order to graduate in a timely manner. Now that's way too much details don't worry about that right now, but know that fine to take 12 units, especially your first year. Some people actually prefer that, but you're going to build up to 16. It's a pretty much a full-time job. If you do plan on working, I highly recommend working on campus. So off-campus places can be really predatory to first-gen students. They will not be flexible with schedules. So if you say, I have a test that day, it's like, well, too bad, show up for work or you're fired, right? So this happens at the mall a lot with some of the retail spaces. I also, and not even to say they're bad, like a lot of times you don't want to disappoint the place that's paying you. So students will won't request off time even when they need it. So being a student first and planning out your whole quarter by going through each and every syllabus, right? And finding out when the tests are, when the papers are due, and saying, okay, you know, mom, Tia, whoever, I can't come home that weekend before because I actually have a huge midterm on that Monday. So let's figure out, you know, if there's special family stuff going on, I'm going to plan ahead. So 10 weeks may sound like a lot. So it's 10 weeks of school and then 1 week of finals. But if you can get those dates on a calendar, even if you never had to write anything down in high school, start writing it down. You want to go to student orgs, you want to get a job, you want to have friends, you want to do well in your classes. Don't take up brain space trying to remember where you're supposed to be when, and if there's homework due tomorrow. Have a planner, right? So I think that's a big thing that first gen students, especially students who are really good students in high school, maybe didn't have to do the writing down stuff, you figured it out and had a job and did extracurriculars. And it's not to say you can't do that at UC San Diego, it's you have to be really organized and intentional about it. I think that there's a term some people use called imposter syndrome, and there's like new kind of writing about it that I really like that says like that makes it sound like you're the problem, like as the imposter, right? Feeling like, oh my gosh, I got here, but do I really belong here? Did they make a mistake? And the most recent article I read on that flips it and says, why is the institution making you feel like you don't belong here, right? There's no such thing as imposter syndrome. That's like institutional syndrome of you're not telling students loud enough and often enough that you belong. So I'm going to tell you, hopefully not the first time, but loudly. And today you got into UC San Diego. It is competitive to get into. It is not a mistake. You absolutely can make it here. There are going to be things that suck, and there are going to be people who rub you the wrong way, but there are also going to be people who are awesome, and there's going to be opportunities, especially like within CASP and McNair. Take advantage of them, right? Find your people, find your community, and don't give up. Don't let a like one misguided, wrong, let's just say it, racist, prejudiced person make you question yourself or your dreams. So that's not to say that's predominant. That's not like, not people aren't coming out of classes every day, but there are enough microaggressions that go on, especially in academia, that make people feel like they don't belong. And then on top of that, right, like we all have like these other like many identities that we're coming with that make us interesting, cool, awesome people. But if we feel different than what the whole class looks like, and you've got a professor who says something that's off-putting, it can really get to you. So again, the mentorship thing, finding faculty members who are first gen, if you identify with a certain ethnicity or culture, sometimes that can be a really helpful way to just feel connected early on. There are student orgs for like every identity. So I will say that's on students to go find them because they exist. It can be very overwhelming. So take it slow, don't join everything. But if you have an identity that is like really important to you, try to, go on the student org website or seek them out. The welcome week and first few weeks, there's always going to be the student orgs out on what we call library walk, right? They're going to be out there asking you to come to their meetings. Take advantage of those, and don't feel like you can't do what or whatever because somebody, doesn't look like you or doesn't sound like you, because you're going to make that org more interesting and better. Does that sound a little too soapboxy, rah? Okay. Any other questions? Yeah, I will definitely say, so I was a transfer student and a non-traditional student. I was decades older than like my cohort mates, and I graduated my undergrad when I was 30, and then I was like, I'm never going back to school. I ended up getting my master's when I turned 40 and had the best time ever. That's another thing I will say is like, especially from a lot of the students I work with, getting to UCSD was the goal. You're here, so now what, right? So for some folks, it might be like med school or, engineering, but for a lot of people, it's like, well, I worked really hard and I'm here. There's always got to be a next goal. So what do you want your experience to be like here? What do you want to get out of the university? What do you want to do with that afterwards? And, some of it's going to be practical and making money. Some of it's going to be making friends and wellness, and like, wellness can be your financial wellness, making money, your mental and social wellness. So think about that balance, and you're paying a ton of money to programming and student affairs and like all these things, right? Like that, if you look at your tuition statement, go to the rec center, go join intramurals, go to this stuff. They are free to you because the student fees are paying for them. Great. Any other questions? So I'm gonna, because I feel like I was a little rambly. Again, this tucking into Zoom thing is weird. I got 2 videos on. Thank you. Is it Nabil? Or how do you? Yeah. Okay. And Erica, y'all are keeping me grounded and that there's real people here. Yeah. So find like, if you want to look at the research, I'll get nerdy with you. And a lot of first gen folks, especially like to find a peer mentorship program. So student orgs, people who are near peers, maybe a year ahead. CASP is going to be a great source for that, right? You've got your CASP mentors, and you have folks there who, I think we're at time, but so take advantage of that. But the next level really is finding faculty and staff who are professionally connected and can get you to the places you want to be. All right.
Thank you so much, Allison. And before everyone goes, I just wanted to introduce myself. My name is Anthony. I'm Tony. I'm part of the CAS kind of team. I'm a CAS intern for CAS 101 tomorrow. And I really appreciate Allison with this presentation. I know everyone's like disconnected, but also thank you for all those who participated with cameras on. I just appreciate everyone being here. It was a great presentation, bringing all of our awareness to, acknowledging all your kind of like identities and appreciating that we're all in this together. First generation students are really important, and we all matter, whatever walks of life or different avenues we're all taking. So hopefully we'll see you all tomorrow. And if anyone had any questions, I believe they can just ask you, right? Or they can ask me a little after as well.
I'm muted. It's only 2+ years and still figuring it out. Yeah, feel free to email me. I just put that in the chat, and I will make sure to send CASP the Google Slides that I went through, and there's actually going to be like links in them, so you don't have to look stuff up.
Yes, of course. And also this Zoom session was recorded. It will also be posted on the CAS 101 website for all y'all to kind of relook at if y'all missed anything or just wanted to go into detail for anything else.
Have fun tomorrow. I got to see many of you walking to CASP 101 yesterday on campus, and it made me very happy. And when you go into the actual CASP offices, I'll say, here's my little Easter egg. There's a picture of me somewhere on the office wall, and I'm very happy, and it was at CASP 101. But yeah, I'll hang out if anybody wants to stay and ask questions. Bye, Erica, Nabil, you guys are my heroes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome. Did you have a question or want to talk? Citra? All right, Tony, I think that might be just it.
Yeah, thank you so much again. If you didn't have any questions or anything, Tra, I will be ending this Zoom session. I appreciate you coming, and if there's anything, I'll hopefully see you all tomorrow at CAS 101.
Have fun.